Hi, I'm John Khosravi, managing attorney of the JQK Law firm, helping immigrants from all over the world come to live life in the United States. And today we're going to talk about a major issue that affects all immigrants, not just marriage green card holders or applicants that I normally deal with. And this is the issue of inadmissibility. This is the requirement that a person have a clear background and approval background before being able to enter the United States, hence inadmissibility or admissibility, the permission to come in. It's a long, complicated subject that could have books written about it. But today we're going to go over some big ones that usually get people so you can be aware of them and some smaller ones, but definitely consult with an immigration attorney in private for more information about this and more. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to discuss INA 212 or 8 U.S.C. 1182, which is a statute for inadmissibility, the inability for someone to enter the United States for some background kinds of issues. So what issues typically pop up that are problematic for people in this sphere? As you can imagine, one of the biggest ones is criminal history. If a person has been to prison before, for example, has dealt with drugs, sold them, used them, and been caught and got all sorts of criminal violations, that could be a reason that could prevent the foreign person from coming to the United States. Now, there's formulas about how this happens, and they have a thing called, good crime of moral turpitude to see whether this is a crime that's too bad or too low, and that has to do with how much prison time was given, or if you had multiple crimes, that's a different issue on itself. I'm not going to go more into it on that because it's a complex issue, but the only recommendation is if you do have any arrest history even, consult with an attorney to see how that could affect your immigration process because it's a very serious issue that can be problematic. There are some waivers that do exist, forgivenesses for some types of cases that could help you. So that option does exist. It's not all bad, but it's something you definitely need to consult with an attorney with, and you should have your original or certified records of arrests or court records if that happens, and also get a police certificate or police report from the country or countries you've been in to give a better idea for the lawyer to be able to properly review your background. So that's one of the major one that pops up. It's criminal history for people that have immigration issues. However, another issue that pops up a lot is people that have immigration violations. For example, entering the United States illegally or without permission, or overstaying a visa. That could be a reason that could prevent someone from getting status or being inadmissible and could require them to leave and be outside for maybe 3 years, 10 years or longer, or ask for a waiver of forgiveness to be able to re-enter the United States. So if you have had times where you entered the U.S. unlawfully or had spent time without permission in the United States, any status violations in the past, that could be a reason that can prevent you from getting a green card or status, or if you're in the United States, get a green card, requiring you to go to the U.S. Embassy to get a green card. As you can tell, it gets complicated, but that's another reason why you should consult with an attorney is if you have immigration violations. So there's criminal violations, and then there's immigration violations that are very serious that pop up a lot in immigration cases. Another issue that pops up is previous lying or misrepresentation, or they call fraud and misrepresentation. This is when you don't give the full information to a U.S. officer for immigration purposes to be able to get a benefit. So for example, if you want to get a student visa or a tourist visa, telling the embassy officer or the consular officer during the interview something false, or in the forms not giving full information or lying about some information, if they find out about it, that's called misrepresentation or fraud, which could bar you from coming to the United States unless a waiver applies to you. So be very careful. Don't let someone else fill out your documents, or if they do, make sure to review them so there's not errors in there so you don't mistakenly have fraud or misrepresentation in your background, even when it was unintentional. And that happens a lot when people allow other people to fill out their forms without reviewing those before they're submitted. So you have to be very careful of that issue because it does pop up a lot. Now, in reference to these immigration violations I spoke about, people here coming here unlawfully, overstaying, or misrepresentation or fraud, you have to remember if you have any removal history or court history, that could be a problem for being able to get some sort of status if you're already in the United States, or it could be a reason you could be removed out of the United States and not allowed back in. So if you have any court history or you've got a notice to appear, you should definitely consult with an immigration attorney in private to figure out how bad the situation is and how, if possible, it could be solved. Now, the next issue is something that's become more and more difficult under the new administration in 2020. This is called the public charge rule, which is something that's existed for many years, over a century, but it's gotten more strict. And this is the worry of the U.S. government that the foreign person coming in will not be able to financially support themselves. So they have to show that they have the means, education, language ability, health insurance, all this kind of stuff background kind of stuff to show up when they come here, they can afford to live in the United States and deal with financial issues as they happen. So they've gotten more strict on that, and that could be one reason the public charge rule that a case could be denied at the embassy or in the United States if they don't have the financial backing and ability to support themselves while they're inside the United States. Now, another major issue could be health problems. So, for example, if you have tuberculosis or gonorrhea or syphilis, these are reasons why a person could be denied getting a green card, for example. But waivers do exist, and a lot of these health situations could be solved before a person comes in or even after they're here. This, again, is something that may need a waiver, and you should consult with an immigration attorney to talk about. Another rare one that pops up is people who are intending to practice polygamy in the United States. So it's not allowed in the United States. That's problematic. You should be careful for that. Or another one is falsely claiming to be a U.S. citizen. You should never claim to be a U.S. citizen. It's a serious immigration violation. If you do, they take it very seriously, as I said. So you never claim to be a U.S. citizen if you're not, because that could be something that could ban you forever from coming to the United States. And there's not really a waiver for it, so be very careful of that. Now, another issue that's obvious is if you have any terrorist or security reasons that could prevent you from coming to the United States. The U.S. is becoming more and more strict on people with that kind of background, so be very mindful of that. And two more issues I'll talk about so you have an idea of how complex it could be. And one is the J1 2-year requirement, which is if you're a cultural exchange visitor to the United States, the J1 visa, sometimes you have what's called the 2-year home residency requirement, which means after you're here, you have to go back to your home country for 2 years, wait it out to come back. The idea being that you're going to take the cultural things you learned in the United States and bring it to your home country. If you don't stay back for 2 years, you may not be able to file for a green card in the United States or get work visas like the H-1B until that's done. So you got to be careful of these kind of stuff. They do pop up. Another example is if someone comes to the United States as an F1 student visa holder, not for college, but for high school or lower level schools, and they have to attend a private school. If they end up attending a public school, it could be a violation and be a bar to entry until you're back home for a certain period of time. So there's a lot more of these little bit nuanced kind of stuff. I just want you to mention it so you hear it, so you have an idea of things that could pop up. And I've seen each of these pop up in the past. And not to me, they're not new, but they kind of could be unexpected. Just know if you have an inkling of these kind of issues or other problems that aren't smooth, you should set up a consultation with an immigration attorney. I have another video in this series that breaks down how you could choose an immigration attorney. And my recommendation that you try to talk to 3 to 5 different lawyers because you could get different opinions on a matter that are wildly different. But just be careful for your past. You don't want one of those reasons to come back and be problematic. Some of them may come, but sometimes waivers do exist. So you really got to see all your options, see how you could clean yourself of these problems and be able to live and work in the United States without those kind of worries. Thank you so much for listening. It's a wonderful time explaining this information to help people in their process for coming and living in the United States. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi.